reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to Perfect Mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm Jay Clay, rapper, the spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Everything, anything, plenty perfect. Everything, anything, plenty perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, plenty perfect mode. Perfect mode, everything, anything, plenty perfect mode.
Perfect.
What up? What up? Welcome to Perfect Mode. And I know I might be, you got to let me know how I'm looking, but welcome to Perfect Mode. Okay. First off, let me start by telling y'all that we love y'all. We're grateful for the opportunity to be anywhere, sharing our thoughts, the way that we see things, and hopefully helping you realize that you are perfect. And the reason why I can unapologetically say that is because I know that you are one of one, numero uno. You cannot be duplicated, replicated. And the only reason you would think that you're not perfect is if you're looking at somebody else and saying, you know what? That's better than what I got. And the reality of it is you are the one. And of course, it's yours truly, Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. And I have my boy Jay Clay, spiritual rapper and teacher. And we're about to get on here and talk about your daily practices, what works and what hinders. What up, Jay?
What up? Happy Sunday. We got to a minute late start. We had some technical difficulties, but we all good now. We back. We ready to roll, ready to talk about these daily practices, these habits. And I know this is something we speak to on a regular basis, but I will say it's needed every time. Like it really is. I'm in a transition period with some habits as well, and it's pretty interesting.
Yo, I know this is probably going to be kind of like far left field, but I always give this example to people when they talk about doing the same stuff over and over again. Like, you know, people that go to church every Sunday, they go to church every Sunday to be reminded so that way they can get themselves back on track to what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
So, you know, a lot of times in the life that we live and all the distractions that we have, and not only just distractions, all the things that we want to do in life. Like sometimes you get distracted within yourself, which is we're going to kind of get to that. But sometimes you need to hear the same thing over and over again so that way you can hone your focus, so that way you can lock in to something specific if you want to, and be able to figure out what works and what hinders. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and not only that, like even in my case, there's some habits I've started and I realized, well, this may not be serving me in the way that I thought it would. Like I gave it a try, and by maybe tweaking it at a different time, maybe, you know, it can change things. And so it's not only about the ones that we do against ourselves, but it could be the one we had good intentions for. But then if we're real with ourselves, we realize, okay, this might be shifted in some kind of way.
So I would say this, that, you know, your daily practices is something that's a hindrance and a help for me every single day. And it's something that, you know, I actually would say that, you know, when I'm really thinking this through now, I spend more time thinking about these than I actually do activating these on a daily basis, because a lot of times I feel like I get stuck in a place where I'm trying to figure out what makes sense and I can't make a decision, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess just kicking this conversation off, for you, my question is, how do you identify what works? Because just because something is moving along doesn't always mean it's working as well. And how do you identify what hinders? Because just because something is not moving doesn't mean that it's a hindrance either. So
Yeah.
I guess just trying to point out or pick out, you know, what those things are, and then, you know, we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, and that's an excellent question. And now that I'm really thinking about it, I think it's how you feel, like how you feel about the whole thing. Because I mean, like if you wanted to, you could get into a zone where you just very strict with yourself, but you're not having fun at all. You're not enjoying what you're doing, so you're not really mindful about it. It's more like it's a burden, even though it could be helping you, but because you feel it's a burden, you're going against the help that it's doing. So it's kind of like you have to be in alignment with action of what you're doing and how you feel about it. And sometimes you get caught in I should say me. Sometimes I get caught in the numbers game or the consistency game of just I got to do it every day. But then my I don't know, things have pivoted, shifted slightly. Like that could still serve me, but not in the same way. Like I might have to add an extra hour or focus on something slightly different. I'm trying to think of a good example to give a real life example. Go ahead.
I want to give an example of something that how it ended up hindering me, even though I felt like it was a practice that I felt like it was a practice that was working.
Yeah.
But after I figured out the hindrance of it, I realized that it didn't work because I was able to kind of look at it and see the way that I was, I guess, moving in a sense where it wasn't being as effective as it could be. So just to kind of give you an example, we were in our Spanish run for a long time, and I'm pretty sure you and Didi probably still in your Spanish run. And our biggest thing was at that time was be consistent. Do not miss a day. Like you can do one Spanish lesson a day. You can just don't miss it. So in making sure that I did that one lesson a day, I was like, I started to talk to myself and say, this is not necessarily, I mean, me just doing one lesson just to get it out of the way, that mug is not necessarily helpful to me in a way that I would think, even though I know it's helpful, but from the way that I'm trying to internalize this, it's not really working for me, right? So what I decided to do was pick it up, do as many of them as you can a day, right? And so I was making sure that I did it every day, and then I would just do a lot of Spanish lessons. And then one day I just did some crazy amount of Spanish lessons, and then I was excited about it. I was energized, like, man, I did this and da, da, da. And then from that day forward, I didn't do Spanish for probably a whole another 3 or 4 weeks because I was burnt out.
Yeah.
And so in the burnout, I realized that number one, me trying to push myself beyond what was comfortable for me or where I had the feeling where I was able to really enjoy myself was a hindrance because it made me not want to do it anymore. But then not only that, when I looked back and thought about me pushing myself in the way that I was pushing, even when it was just one lesson a day, I realized it became more of a task than an educational act.
Yeah.
And so I was literally going through the motions, but I wasn't retaining. I guess I can't say that I wasn't retaining because I was retaining it, but I wasn't retaining or being able to, I guess, embrace it and include it within myself as much as I really needed to in order to be effective. And
Yeah.
so that's when I realized the processes and the process that I was going through did not work. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, same with me and doing the Spanish lessons on Duolingo. I would just do it to finish it, and I wasn't. It was just like I would just do it real quick, and then I would get mad if they told me I was wrong. I'm like, man, I know this is right. Y'all lying. I don't know, but I realized because I wasn't in it. When I was in it, I could just do a bunch all day, and I was enthused about it. But right now, I'm just not enthused about it. And I did think of an example of one habit I changed. I just changed the time that I did it, and it made a huge difference. So one thing I like is just having a clean environment. I found I don't know, I'm just happier. I function better. I can do more like if the environment that I'm in is clean. And so like one of the things I had put on my to-do list was like every day at 6 p.m., just tidy up a bit. Just, do stuff. And if I don't have anything to tidy up, I can kind of declutter old stuff that I just never got to. And what end up happening is that time comes and either I'm busy, I'm tired, I'm doing something else. I don't want to think about doing anything. And so it dawned on me, just do it first thing in the morning. And it's been easy to do. It's been quick. It's been efficient. I'm enthused to do it. Like I'm liking the little bit that I'm doing every day toward it too, of the decluttering and all of that. And it's like, why didn't I do this before? But it's the same habit. It's the same effort. It's just, I'm changing the time and it flows a lot better.
So I want to talk about this changing of time. And I want to talk about, being resistant to the change when you feel like it's necessary or how you can make it work. And the only reason I bring it up is because the thing that sparked in my mind is I don't know if I would say that I'm a night person, you know what I'm saying? But I kind of am a night person, you know what I mean? And I think part of that is because I'm real, I guess, affected by distractions. And I don't mean distractions in a bad way. It could be anything. The TV being on, my kid asking me a question. But the one thing that I've realized about myself was the work that I do, if I wait until everybody goes to sleep at nighttime, for some reason I get super locked in. Like I can get as much done as I want to. I can be happy about it, and I won't I won't have any hiccups that stop me from doing what I need to do. And I feel accomplished a lot of the times. Now, here's a caveat to it, right? I got to get up early in the morning and take my kids to school. I have whole days of work because a lot of my clients, they need stuff to be done during the daytime. But for whatever reason, the most effective that I could be is overnight. And so, just trying to juggle how that would work has always been something that's been a task for me, I guess I'll say. But to your point, I've tried to say, you know what? Let me find that quiet time during the daytime, or let me do these things during the daytime so that way I can get into that same mode, but I've never been able to do that. And so now there's just this balance where I might take a couple of days where I will stay up late and just do as much as I can. And then the other days I just go to bed, at regular times. But just pointing that out, I felt like was kind of tied into what you were saying.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, a lot of it too is going with the flow. So
Yeah.
I've noticed that. Okay, so I went on a trip like the past 3 weeks. Well, the week before last week, I was on a trip for 3 weeks, and so the time changed.
Like 3 months, dog.
Yeah, and so the time changed. And when I came back, I was just waking up super early. I was waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, ready to go, and like just kind of going with the flow. I kind of developed a new routine. So as of right now, which this is my morning routine, which just kind of happened, but I'm liking it. So I get up. First thing I do is say like my mantra, kind of visualize that mantra that I'm stepping into.
What time you getting up though? So I know.
It is anywhere from 4 to 6:30.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. But I don't set an alarm. It's just when I'm.
Yeah.
It's
When
like
you get
I
up.
feel let's get it. So So I do that, and then I'll go grab my laptop. And then I'll go back, I come to a different room, and I just kind of just tinker on the laptop while I'm still half asleep. But I'll kind of plan my day a little bit and just knock out some of like the little meaningless to do tasks or something. And then I'll put that down. I'll tidy up, and then I get into my morning routine, which could be making a smoothie. It could be showering and stuff like it. I got a lot of leeway or whatever. And then I work. After that, like just set the intentions of the things I want to do for that day. I do that for like the next 3 hours. And then afterwards, work out, chill. And like chill is chill. Yeah, it's cool. And sometimes I still do work, but I do projects, but it's not like really like work related. It's projects that I care about, but it doesn't mean anything. That makes sense.
Yeah. So, and this is all spurred on from the time you came back from your trip to now, and just the adjustment in the time frame, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Nah. And see, and again, for my circumstances, like I try to tend to go with the flow as much as I can, but again, I'm easily distracted, and I can literally say, you know what, now's the time for me to do it. I'm about to lock in, and then at that time, that will be the time that my kids, I think we got the same lock in mode. So that's the time when they decide that they're gonna lock in too, and then Brody would come next to me and say my name 30 times in a row, Daddy. What about this? And I answer him, he say, Daddy. What about this? And I literally would have to be like, dude, let your boy get some stuff done. But I guess that's a part of it. So I guess let's just get into it even a little bit more. Like going with the flow, I think definitely is key to finding out what works, right? But I also would throw this out there too to say that sometimes when you go with the flow, it can be something that hinders you. And that's why I was talking about the Spanish. Like I didn't have anything else to do during the Spanish time. It was just convenient. And even if I had stopped doing it, I didn't know what to fill that time with, that gap with. So because it was just a set time, and this was where it goes to having that structure and saying, no matter what, I'm going to do it this way because eventually I'm going to end up where I want to end up. It really was a big hindrance on my life. So I guess, how do you determine, again, I know that feeling is a big part of this. You know what I'm saying? Understanding like how you feel. But even in that, there were times where I know that I didn't feel as glowing as I would want to during the process. When I was finished, I was like, yeah, I did that. Let me go ahead and tell everybody. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so it not only is it feeling, but it's mindfulness. Like you have more control over your feelings than you realize. Like so even tuning in, like why don't I feel as great? And sometimes we can look at our thoughts. So for an example, some people feel if they're not being productive, they're not doing anything. you know, and that could be a hindrance too, as much as it could be a good thing. But being mindful of how you actually feel about it. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, do I have to be doing something every hour? How much rest can I get? How much rest can I get where I still feel good? Or how much work do I do where I still feel good? Like, all of these things are things to be mindful of, because, as they say, it's a yin and yang to everything. And I've actually been on both sides of it, where I've just worked myself ragged, and then where I was like, nope, doing nothing.
I ain't doing nothing.
Right. But then like that became a hindrance, because I started not to feel like doing anything. It was like I should be energized. I shouldn't be tired now. But let me change this. So it's about finding that balance, but also being real with yourself on how you feel about these things and how do you want to feel about these too.
So I'm glad that you brought it up, and you know, just again, something that we're gonna always kind of try to drive home is mindfulness. And you know, when do you take time to really think about what you're doing? When do you really look at your situation and reevaluate it? Like, how many times do you sit down and say, okay, this is how my day starts. Let me meditate on this. Does this make sense? How do I truly feel about this? Does this feel like it's moving me in the direction of my life that I want to go? Do I feel like this is truly affecting the people around me in the way that I imagined it when I thought that I was going to do it? Because a lot of times, the things that we try to set forward to do, we've thought about all of these things, maybe not on a grand scale, but subconsciously, it's things that run in my mind. Like, if I decide to get up at 5 in the morning and just leave the house, what will my wife think about that? Like, it's not something that I'm literally going to speak out, but it's something that goes through my mind with, with the quickness. So, like, when do we take the time to meditate on every action that we're actually living out in our life to find out if it really makes sense? Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, that's true. And not only being mindful, but of all of these actions, coming up with a system to deal with it, in a sense. Like, I mean, we all have to-do items that we have to do. We have to-do items for family, for self, for work, for play. Like, we all have these items. And this is something I play with too. Like, I've had to-do lists. I had, like, the tidy thing that I told you I switched. That has been on my to-do list every day for like the past year. And I probably actually followed that maybe 7 days out the year, which was like, now I know I got to change this. I know I got to delete this, but I didn't want to delete it. So I just tried a new time. But we got to develop, we have to figure out our system, but not be hard on ourselves when we do it wrong. Cause that's part of it too. Like, okay, how can I get all this out? Like, do I want to journal what I got to do? Do I want to keep a to-do list? I don't want to do that. That seems like work in itself. Like, but being willing, like you said, to figure that out for yourself, because it makes things a lot easier.
And I would even go as far as to say that again, I'm just running it through my mind as we're talking about it. But I think that we do it, but we only do it for the things that we feel like are highlights of our life. So as an example, like, Perfect Mode is a big part of my life, or the D.D. Ingram Show is a big part of my life, or coaching and basketball is a big part of my life. So every season that we come into, there's an evaluation process. Does this still make me feel the same way that I need to be? And that's not something that's spoken out, but it's also a self-planning. Like, how can I continue this momentum? How can I make this continue to grow? This is something that I just, again, not nothing me and Jay Clay talk about or me and Didi talk about. It's just something that I do subconsciously, because we do evaluate certain things that we give a certain level of, importance. But I'm talking about everything else, because I think that everything should go through the same evaluation process, no matter how small you think it is. Even as much as, like, what time do I get up in the morning? Like, am I getting up in the morning early because it's a necessity, meaning I have to, because it helps facilitate everything going on in my house? Shouts out to my girl Yvette as well. We appreciate you joining us. Much love always. But is this is this going to help facilitate, or am I just doing this to prove to people that, oh, I can get up early, or am I doing this because I'm trying to set the stage for something else? And I think just kind of just looking at it from that standpoint and really trying to figure out, what makes sense is important in it all. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that you said that. Like, am I doing this? Like, what's the reason I'm doing this? Because that goes back to that mindfulness. There's a lot of things I could do, but my reasons for doing it wouldn't be my own. It would be because I think that this is what society says is XYZ. But it's like, am I going to do it for what I think society is, or am I going to do things for me? Like I know what I want for myself, which is why shout out to again Napoleon Hill. I know we bring him up a lot too. He talked about the definite chief aim, and it's about you just it's a phrase or a series of sentences that you say every day until it becomes your reality. And I know this works. I've done it plenty of times, but there was a big gap where when I was real with myself, I was afraid to do it because I was like, well, I'm limiting myself. But then what if I didn't limit myself? How big do I go? And I don't know, for whatever reason, I was just scared to go to that level of big. And I would say, and I can say now for the past, it might be almost 2 months now, I've been saying this mantra, as you will, this definite chief aim. And it's cool how things are unfolding because your mind is tuned to it. Like I have a reminder that comes up on my phone that says, hey, revisit your definite chief aim. And like when your mind is attuned to something, you have that mindfulness of it, you're able to kind of bring it to your awareness and make decisions according to that blueprint that you set for yourself. And the reason I say that is because, and I'll speak for myself, there have been times that I made a decision for what I want, but then another day I made a decision for something that might not be aligned with that same thing. But this is what I know I want ultimately. So it keeps me in line no matter if I zigzag on the little things or not.
So funny enough that you say that is, shouts out to Napoleon Hill as well. And, just, the information that's been able to just, be passed down, to people just to put people in a better situation. But I went to go talk to kids. They have an entrepreneur, which is something that I know we didn't have when I was growing up. But at Eastern Hills High School, and I think at Dunbar they have it as well, they have an entrepreneur class that you can take. And again, shouts out to Eastern Hills, and they invited me to come talk to the kids about entrepreneurship and things to kind of put in the forefront of your business. And one of the things that I told them more than anything was like, write it down. To me, I know that's not the same as a definite chief aim, but it's a pathway to getting a definite chief aim. And the reason why is so that exactly like you said, at any given point, you can go back and revisit what your goal or what your endpoint or what you're looking to do is. And that, I know I was talking to kids, but I told them that's not something that only applies to kids. It applies to adults as well. And the example that I always give them is like, what did y'all eat, last Friday for lunch? And everybody is always like, I don't know. And I was like, well, what did you eat yesterday? And they generally was like, well, I don't know. Some people might be able to name it or not. And I was like, so if you make a plan last Friday or you make a plan yesterday and you can't even remember the details of it, how do you figure you're going to get to your end goal if you don't have anything to show you what it looks like? And so, my point is always that we always have the greatest intentions when we plan or we want to do anything. But the reality of it is there's so much going on, and I don't even want to talk about distractions. There's so much going on within ourselves for us to be able to lock in and remember all that we want to do. So, I definitely co-sign that. But the other piece to this that I want to throw out is when you are making adjustments based off of what you think makes sense to others. And what I mean by that is when I was actually working in corporate America, I worked for a company called Dytech. Now in Dytech, I came from before I started working at Dytech, I was a manager at Chase. I came from being a manager, and I say that just to say that again, I don't know if this is the truth or not, but I felt like I was able to catch on to things a lot faster than most people. Right. So I was able to retain information and put it into action faster than most people would. So when I got to Dytech, we would be doing a project and 8 o'clock in the morning, we start working by 9:30, I'm done. But people are working on this literally all day. And it's not like they working on it just to spend out the day. They literally having problems with this, right? And so what I would end up doing was I would end up spreading out the work that I did so I felt like I fit into the dynamic of the workspace that I was at, right? And again, it's nothing wrong with that if that's what my intentions were, but that was not my intentions. my intentions were to mask what I was doing so that way I fit it, I I was able to fit in. Now, where this becomes a hindrance is if there's any opportunity for growth for myself, I've already wiped that off the table because I'm not allowing myself to um, flow in the way that I would normally flow. That's number one. Now I'm gonna switch this up and go from work and go to home. In my life, the job that I have doesn't require me to work during the daytime. It doesn't require me to work from 8 to 5. But when I first became a realtor, I know that that didn't look right to my wife, so I would make up work to do in a sense. I was really doing real work, but I would bring work into the time frame that I shouldn't be doing work, so that way I fit what the environment was, so that way, you know, everybody would feel, comfortable. But again, the hindrance in it for me is now I'm getting out of uh, practice in the way that I like to do my work to make me feel comfortable to be able to excel. And so I point out that to say that sometimes the environment will dictate and put you in a position where something that works will not really work for you in the way that it's supposed to. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and to that, I would say, too, we got to remember that we can affect our environment, like
True.
more than we can allow our environment to affect us.
Affect that.
Because one of two things is going to happen: either you change or your environment changes. And if you know what you want for yourself, I mean, I think that's the big thing, because a lot of people don't really know what they want for themselves. And like you said, everyone's fitting into each other's culture, but no one even knows why or what the culture is that they're trying to fit into. So you have a situation where nobody is doing what they want, but they just believe in the culture, which is kind of set up in their own minds, but not mindfully.
So I want to say this, and I'm glad that you said it. That sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, you can change your environment. But I think that questioning yourself the proper way, um, and meditating on it is important, because I'm gonna go back to my job. Eventually, I realized that I was wasting time for myself. Regardless of what anybody else thought. But what ends up happening is my manager ends up putting me in a supervisory role, because now at this point I'm not doing that anymore. But I had to sit back and ask myself, what am I really gaining from doing this? Like, I'm literally sitting here for hours upon hours, and I'm not doing anything. Like, and I don't have hours upon hours to just sit right here and not do anything. I just can't do it. And so I essentially started getting done, and I would go to him and say, and so essentially what he made me do was supervise all the other people, so he didn't have to worry about it anymore. And so now I've elevated my position, I've elevated the skill set, I'm able to grow, you know what I mean? And then I wasn't just being stagnant, I was actually doing something that's beneficial to the business as well as myself. So that's number one. And even at home, I sat back and asked myself, does it really make sense for me to be doing these things during the daytime? No, it didn't. And I had to um, change the dynamic of the way that I was doing my business at home. And then eventually I became more happy. I don't know about anybody else, but I would assume that everybody else became happy because I was more happy myself, right? But I got to taking my naps during the daytime, and then was able to show that, look, later during the day, 5 to 9, I got to work because I either got to show house and talk to people on the phone. But it all made sense, and everybody was able to mesh the way that we were supposed to. So the environment did change, but that was based off of me making a decision, but understanding why I needed to make the decision so that way things can flow.
Yeah, and to that, like, it makes everyone better in a sense. Like, when you elevated your position, you elevated your boss's position. Like, now your boss has free time to then elevate his position and do other things. Like, everyone benefits from it. And like, I'm sure the people you supervise, they're like, oh, this is a real person. He's done this before. He knows what he's talking about. He's not just someone corporate brought on. And then the same thing with your family. Like, they see that you're taking care of business, but your way. And in a world where, like, if you're around a bunch of people that are happily doing things their way, for them, like, you're gonna look at yourself and say, why aren't I doing the same thing? And once you start doing it, you're like, life can be this great. Like I can actually do what I want to do and have fun and still take care of responsibility and still be happy and mindful of the people around me. And the answer is yes. But if you don't allow yourself to, if you don't give yourself that opportunity, you're gonna feel like life is just happening to you. Stuff you're at the mercy of everything around you.
And I I would even go to say is if you're extremely happy, you are mindful of the people around you. Like I mean, I just I've never been in a situation where well, put like this: when I'm I know that when I'm mad, I know that I'm mindful of the people around me. I know that for a fact. So I know that when I'm happy, I'm mindful of the people around me because um, it's like the joke. You remember the joke that Kevin Hart said about being out kicking it with his friends
Oh yeah.
and and his girlfriend called and they laughing real hard. Like when you laughing hard, man, that you're
Yeah.
gonna make other people around you laugh. It's just kind of how that must go. But go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and I was trying to think like, am I mindful like when I'm happy of other people? It's kind of like yes and no. Like yes, but no in the sense is that I don't care if they're not happy because I know that they gonna get happy off my happiness. So you know what I mean? So it's like I'm mindful, but it doesn't matter. Like I don't care if y'all not happy. Y'all gonna get happy because I'm happy. Let's be happy. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's contagious energy that you can't help when in that presence.
But look, bro, I'm telling you, I've been at comedy shows before, and the comedian was so funny, and it was people around me didn't laugh, and I would be literally looking at them like, "How are y'all not laughing? How are you not laughing, fam?" He said, "A baby on her hip, though." Like, like again, when you're full of joy, the people that are not stand out like a sore thumb. When you're angry,
Yeah,
the people that are happy stand out like a sore thumb. Like they do. Like when right the times when I was mad, dog, I could not understand why people wasn't tripping like me because I was fully justified in my upsetness.
yeah,
But just like being happy, you feel fully justified. And again, you know that everybody's not living your life the way that you're living it, but you are aware. But you also know that there have been times, even one of the funniest things on Reels, or I guess TikTok, um, there's a laugh that goes around on some of the TikToks or some of the Reels, and it's the same laugh on
yeah.
all of them, right? It's multiple videos, but the
No, no,
laugh
no. That one.
it's not that one, but I heard that one too before. But it's a laugh where the dude just be cracking up, right? It's funny, and no matter what I'm watching, whenever that laugh comes on, it makes me laugh at the video, and it's just like it just goes to show you that um, how infectious joy is,
Yeah,
how infectious what works is. Because the thing that moves or pushes us all the time, especially when we're trying to accomplish something, is seeing somebody who has done it before and wanting to know all the steps that they went through and all the detail. And it's infectious. And to me, that's why identifying it, being able to put it into action and live it is so important. Go ahead, Jay.
yeah, and also like living it your way because it's been plenty of times like I was like, yeah, how did they do this? What were their steps? And I learned their steps, and it's like, nah, I don't want to do it like that. That's not fun to me. There's another way. I'm gonna figure it out, and that's fun. Like not knowing. Oh, man, I heard the perfect example um, of this. So like, okay, we think we want to win all the time, right? Like we really like, yeah, I want to just do this and just win. Just no matter what I do, I just want to win, win, win. And if that's the case, the person I was listening to, she said, "Why don't you play a 4-year-old in tic tac toe every day? You'll always win." But like, there's no challenge in that. There's no like, you already know what to expect. And the challenge and the fun comes from you really don't quite know what to expect, but you're still willing to move forward and try because it excites you.
So, okay, so I want to talk about these kids again one more time, right? Um, so I guess I'll say this in regards to what you're saying. That's a lot of the driving force in us, dog. Is I don't want to call it competition, but it's a version of competition, like just trying to be able to accomplish what somebody else has done, number one, and then figuring out how far you can go with it. I don't want to say do it better because you can nobody do you better than you, right? But I think that's kind of where we kind of lose sight too. When you say like allowing yourself to be it, like it has to be something to you. It has to really mean something to you. And when I think about when I was talking to the kids at Eastern Hills this weekend, we asked all the kids, what's your business? What's your business, right? And there were like four girls who were doing nails, right? It was funny. And so I'm just gonna make up some names because I want to use their real names, but it was Alicia, Keisha, Tisha, right? And Isha, right? And so I asked Alicia, what's your business? She was like, Nails by Alicia. And then I asked Keisha, and she was like, "Oh, my business is nails by Keisha." And then another one was like, "It's nails by Tisha." And so the last one, like this was literally their business names, right? And so the last one was like, "Well, I don't know what my name is because I don't want to be like nails by Isha because that's so regular, right?" So she say this much, and in my mind, I got her. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't just say exactly what they said, even though the first three they were not even affected by it, because somewhere within them, I think they realized that it doesn't matter what anybody else's name is. This is just how I feel right now, and I'm gonna do this. And I'm not saying that the last girl didn't feel the exact same way. She probably felt the exact same way, but the message that I was able to give them at the time was name doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? What you're selling in this aisle is you, right? And so it can be nails by Isha and nails by Keisha, but nails by Isha don't provide the same thing that nails by Keisha provides. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is that, to your point, you have to find you in it anyway. You have to always be dedicated to finding yourself in it. And that's something that I've always had a challenge with, even for me. Like looking online, which is always a hindrance for everybody in some way, form, or fashion. It can be a help too, depending on how you view it. But being a real estate broker, and it's not a lot of black real estate agents or brokers in the game. But whenever I look up real estate, majority of us pop up because that's the environment that I'm in. And what I find myself doing is looking at what somebody else does and says, let me do what they're doing. And the problem is, it's not me saying let me do what they're doing. I'm saying let me do what they're doing, how they're doing it, versus let me do what they're doing, how I do it. And I think that's real important with identifying, what works. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, and the thing is, everything is possible. And I know we say this, but I don't know if people really wrap their heads around everything being possible. And it's almost like we just put these limits on ourselves just to break them, just to show that we can break these limits. So it's like we live an amount of time within the limit, and then we's like, okay, it's time to shed this limit. I don't want to live like this no more. I already did it. And then we're amazed when it happens, like, oh man, I can't believe it. But that's just what we are. Like it's there's nothing we can't do. And so, like to your point, in setting things up for ourselves the way that's most meaningful for ourselves, like that's the ultimate. You know what I mean? Like what's better than that? Like if you can be happy throughout your day, no matter what happens, if you can set up your daily practices, your rituals that support what you want to do, but you're happy, it's nothing better than that. And I'll say this. So to what you were saying, like you look at somebody and you want to kind of do that for yourself, but kind of make it your own. There have been times that I've been on the path of doing whatever I'm doing or want to do. Then I'll see somebody else's way, and then I'll be ready to abandon my way, and excuse me, instead of just sticking to it, because the way that I'm building, the way that I'm unfolding and working on myself in regards to this thing is the way that's for me. That way for them is their way. We can still have meaningful conversations and maybe trade ideas or help each other get ideas, but we have to know that we are our center. Like we know what's best for us because we live our lives, and no one else could know what's best for us, even if they try. Like you can never be 24/7 with somebody. You can never be inside someone else's head, but only you can be inside your own and dictate what you want.
I'm telling you, bro. I honestly feel like even outside of real estate, I feel like I am. I feel like this. I became a realtor, right? When I first became a realtor, I joined Keller Williams. Shout out to Keller Williams. Um, they have a cookie cutter way, which makes sense because it's their business model. Their business model is get as many agents as you can, give them this, give them these tools to use. Like, y'all use these tools this way at this frequency and do it this way. Now the thing is, in this process, I was doing all the stuff that they were telling me to do, but I was not effective. I was not successful as I wanted to be, because it's not that their system doesn't work, but there has to be a certain amount of energy within yourself that has to be applied with it. Now, I had energy because I was doing it, but it's kind of like going to somebody and telling them happy birthday, but tell them like this: happy birthday, happy birthday. Like, the energy didn't reflect what I was doing, so therefore it wasn't materializing into what it was supposed to materialize. But then you got some people that come in like, I'm just Keller Williams, I love it, I'm gonna do it, and they got all the energy. And what you want me to do? You want me to send this email to 1,000 people? Email. Like, they had all the energy that comes along with it, and it works for them, right? But that's not how it's supposed to be for everybody, right? So whenever I became a broker, I understood that cookie cutter method is not going to work for everybody. Again, it's something that I learned when I was a manager at Chase, where they taught me how to manage my team. And then I managed my team accordingly, but there always seemed to be somebody unhappy about something all the time, because I was not really understanding what was going on because of the cookie cutter mentality that works for some, that made, like, an army. Army, everybody expects it to be this way. They expect you to yell at them like a drill sergeant and do these type of things. But eventually I parted ways from that and said, I'm going to manage everybody according to how they are, give them tasks according to how they are, and give them expectations according to how they are, what they want to accomplish themselves, which is the same thing that I kind of do in real estate. And I kind of fall back into a cookie cutter a little bit every once in a while. I try to correct for myself. But I guess the point for me is that um, the energy that the energy that you're supposed to have to do the thing should be reflective. You should be able to, it should be in the forefront. And that's one way to, for us, you talked about it in the very beginning, when it comes to how it feels. It's kind of a good way to find out what hinders and give you a process to redirect, versus just understand. Even though this cookie cutter way may work in some instances, it's not the end all be all. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so if I was to give like a how-to or a practical way that people can set up their daily practices and be aligned with who they are, it starts when you first wake up. So, for instance, if there's something that you like, man, I wish I could remember this throughout the day, put it right next to your bed. Like, print it out, write it, put it next to your bed, so it's the first thing you read. From there on, start to do the things in your routine that you feel you should do, that you want to do at the same time. Like that's the thing. It's like you want to align what you should do with what you want to do. And if there's a conflict, you want to explore it. It's like, okay, I want to do this thing, but I feel like I shouldn't. And so, like, let's say you did the thing that you think you should do. You might not be mindfully in it because you wanted to do something else. Let's say you did the thing you want to do. You might not be mindfully in it because you're thinking about what you should do. So it's about exploring that and figuring out why. Okay, why don't I want to? I know I want to do this, but why do I think I shouldn't do it? And kind of go down that rabbit hole. And I know it seems like a lot of work, but you're going to realize how many of those points you have throughout your day. And once you start to reconcile them and make a decision that you wholeheartedly want and should do, it just makes everything easier. There's no resistance in your day, and you can just flow through and be that happy person that's contagious to everybody.
So I'm gonna give my little 2 cents on it as well, and this is what I would encourage everybody to do. So number one, I'm gonna point out that whenever the task or the job or the goal that I have is really intentional, meaning that I meditated on it, or I really processed it within myself and said, this is something that I both want and need to do, like, that could be the only thing that's on my list to do for tomorrow. And if I do that one thing, it could be small too. It could be just turn the TV on. But if I felt like that was it, I would feel like I did a lot during the day. At the end of the day, I would feel accomplished. The reason why I'm bringing that up is that one thing that I know about people, myself, as well as people around me, when you create a list for yourself of things to do, you don't always get to the end of that list. But when you get to the end of that list, it doesn't matter how many it was, you feel like you did a lot. You feel like you was accomplished, right? So the first thing that I would tell you to do is um, create what you want to do. This is like a small version of a definite chief aim, because you're building up to being able to create a definite chief aim so that way you can focus on every day. I say to know what you want to do tomorrow. Make a list of what you want to do tomorrow. Once you make the list, now this is what we're talking about. This is a lot of work. Before tomorrow comes, look at everything on that list and see what really makes sense. Like, really just take some time and say, if I do this, how do I feel? If I do this, how stressful is this going to be to me? If I do this, how effective is it going to be for my life? If I do this, how much joy will I be in? And I think you should ask yourself the question for all of that and start to scratch stuff off the list or add stuff accordingly. Once you have that list, then tomorrow, be effective. Do it. Do it. Then at the end of the day, again, this is where more work comes in. Then you can reevaluate what you did. Then you're going to feel accomplished because you got it all done. But now you can look and say, I said this was going to make me feel this way. I said this was going to make this happen. Did it really do that? Look and see how effective it really was. And then make changes, add, delete, and then redo your list for the next day. And I think that once you start to, now we're talking about making the plan. Now I'm not talking about any plan that you're just consistent with. That's not where I think that we should be. You got to find out what really makes sense for your life. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, right, and that's the key. Like knowing what works and trying stuff, and then saying, "Hey, this works," or it didn't work. Like I've tried all kind of things people said for positive habits and stuff. Some of them stick, some of them and some of them are just timely. Like, okay, this didn't work now, but let's bring it back. Let's give it another try because I did like this about it, and I did like that. But it's really just finding you in any given moment, because again, so much change. Like, you change every moment. You're not the same you was 5 minutes ago. I don't care how much you want to be the same you. Like, things have changed, but I mean, you're still you, but you're just not necessarily the same you. And being able to navigate that and be able to still be flexible enough to go with the flow, but also stand true to what you desire most out of life.
Yep. And see, to me, again, that's why I like the whole thoughtfulness method of it all, because beginning of the day or the day before, and then the end of the day, like that, being able to change, the willingness to be able to change your thought process is important. You know what I'm saying? Because again, that's how you end up being stuck in a situation like me doing 20 Spanish lessons a day, because I felt like if I changed my thought process, then I was going to be missing an opportunity somewhere. And the reality of it was, I never looked at the end of the day and said, really, how effective was this for me in my life? If I had done that, maybe I would have started speaking more Spanish sentences at the end of the day, and that would have even made it better for me. That would have made it more effective for me. But I never really reevaluated what I was looking at. Even with me and me building up my real estate brokerage, right? I have six people on the team now. I think 7, including myself. And the toughest part of my life, bro, is trying to I reevaluate my thought process on that every single day. Like, I see how it makes sense, how it could potentially be a hindrance, how it doesn't make sense, or more ways to become more effective in going toward my goal of getting 10 people, right? What did I do the previous day that I said that I was going to do today to move me toward that? Did that work? And it doesn't necessarily have to be accomplishing the goal, but did it move my feet in the right direction? And I think that because I'm reevaluating the next day, I realized that step is not a part of it anymore. Let me just go this route. And then I've gotten to a point where I figured out what missing step I need in order to accomplish it. Now, once I accomplish this step, which may take me a month, I might come to the conclusion that it didn't work. But the beautiful part of me evaluating my process was, I found out this is something that I wanted to do to help me accomplish a goal. But not only that, I feel like regardless if I accomplish the goal, this still makes me better in the way that I want to be better, whether the goal is accomplished or not. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. And man, I forgot what I was about to say about that.
My bad, bro.
Yeah, no, you good. Yeah. But yeah, we get to set the tone, and we need to set the tone. Like we need to know that our life is in our hands. And but it's not, action is part of it, but it's our thoughts that's wrapped around the action too, about the actions that we're doing. Oh yeah, so I did just remember what I was gonna say. One thing I found out about myself is I need a certain amount of playtime per day, where like I do nothing, or I don't have to do nothing, or I'm not obligated to do anything. If I don't have it, like let's say I don't know, something happened and I just got to do a bunch of stuff all day long, and it's like 9:00 and I'm dead tired. I won't go to sleep. I would just stay up being tired, not doing nothing for hours, because I just feel like I got to have my just nothing. And that's something I found out about myself. So I don't put myself in that situation. Like I make sure whatever you got to do for the day, just get it done so that you can have that later in the day and it won't mess up your sleep or whatever. But even sleep, I found too, is about your mind, like how you feel about before you go to sleep and how you feel about the kind of sleep you had. It can affect your day, because I've had times where I've gotten no sleep and I've been fine, and then I remember later in the day like, oh snap, I didn't even get sleep before. And I had the opposite, where I got a lot of sleep but I felt tired because of, I don't know, some thoughts I had in my mind. So mindfulness.
And so cold thing about it all. So number one, when we talk about what works, and I love the fact that you said play, whether it's games or whatever it be. Don't give things that other people do. I mean, don't do a negative connotation because it's something that gets you to your finish line. And the reason why I say that is because as adults, play is like a no word. Like, it's just one of those things that people just be like, you be like, I don't even hear grown ups say play a lot, just so you know. Like, unless they're on a PlayStation or Xbox or something, they don't generally be like, I'm gonna go play. Like, I don't know nobody that does that. But because of that, like, you will find yourself not trying to mask it or not trying to do it because it doesn't fit the environment or the world that we live in. And I love the fact that you said that I have to have a certain amount of playtime. And the reason why is because that's what works. You knowing that you had that playtime frees you up mentally to go and do whatever else you want to do unapologetically or free spirited, right? And so I definitely co-sign that. And it's the same thing with me in that, which though I don't take them every day, but I'm a big nap person. And a part of that is the reason why is because I'm a night person. I like to stay up later at night and do things, whether it is work or play. But because of that, during the daytime, I look for the recharge. And if I don't do it, it doesn't propel me in the way that I possibly could be propelled on a daily basis. And then when I do take my nap, I come up refreshed and I'm able to move accordingly. So, I go ahead, Jay.
Now, it's funny you say that, because that's true. Like when I wake up, I'm excited to get up. Like I can't wait to do the day. But if I didn't have my playtime the night before, and like let's just say I had worked all day and I got to get up and just work all day again, I'm not getting up. I don't want to get up. I'm not happy to get up. Nothing. But if I did the playtime the night before, I'm happy to get up. Like, oh yeah, let me just knock this out real quick, go back to my playtime, and then let's have fun.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I agree 100%. So this is what I would tell everybody when it comes to what hinders and what works. Number one, know what you want to do. That doesn't mean that it's written in stone, but it's just written or it's articulated. And then don't be afraid to reevaluate it based off of how you feel. Because, a big part of this was, how do you feel about it? And I would even, encourage you to meditate on that even more, because how we feel is sometimes affected by how the people around us feel. So the reason why I say that is I might be happier if Jay Clay is happy. Like I'm not saying that my happiness should be based on Jay Clay, but if I'm able to make him happy, it might in turn enhance my happiness. And so, or my joy or the productivity that I'm producing. So I would tell you to know what you want to do, reevaluate it, and you know, when you reevaluate it, see how it's affecting you, see how it's affecting your environment, see how it's affecting the people around you, and see if it makes sense to you. And then from there, you know, rework, rework it, and see until you get to a point where you're operating in a sense of, and this is not about the effectiveness of the work that we're talking about yet. This is just the effectiveness of you. Like you got to get you taken care of, and then all the other stuff will kind of, you know, domino effect. But those is just my thoughts on it. Go ahead, Jay.
And I want to speak to what you said about like know what you want, know what you desire. Because I know people that say, well, I don't know what I desire. I don't know what I want. Like, you know what you want for today, and start there. Like, don't be afraid. So when I spoke about my definite chief aim that I wrote out, I think 3 weeks into it, I was still rearranging words. I was still changing stuff because, like, let's just give an example. Let's say somebody said, I want to read 10 books in a month or something. I don't, but I'm just giving an example. Let's say somebody said, I want to read 10 books in a month. And when you see that goal every day and you're reminded multiple times of a day, and you might realize, oh shoot, I don't really want this. And you can start changing it, but you're building that habit of at least looking at what you want every day, or what you desire, having it in the forefront to mark your movement. So that's why I say just start with where you at. You know what you desire out of today. You probably just want to be happy. You probably want to have fun. I don't know, whatever you desire, like you can start with that and then just start building upon it until you know for sure this is who I am. This is what I want to continue doing.
And again, I'm gonna say it one more time. And I like the fact that you even use yourself as an example. You've been changing 1 or 2 words over and over again. 1 or 2, like that attention to yourself is amazing, right? Because again, I told you, I've been in a cycle where I've done the same thing over and over again, and it could have just been the change of something so small that would have alleviated the internal turmoil that I would have had within myself for doing it. I wouldn't have been resistant. It would have been more fun. It could have been a bunch of different things that could have changed if I just had the energy in the thought process to say, you know what, let me reevaluate what I did today. Let me look at it and see if it makes sense. And then not being afraid or not being up to the challenge to rewrite it for tomorrow. Because we're so finite with things that we do. Once we set in the stone, if I change my mind, and this is where the crazy part is, everybody's gonna look at me crazy. Well, the reality of it is you're just gonna look at you crazy because you're not giving yourself the leeway to flow. And so I definitely encourage to reevaluate on a daily basis. See what makes sense. Like I tell myself I'm gonna do 100 push-ups every single day, and I don't do it every single day. Some days it might be 20, some days it might be 30, some days it might be 100, some days it might be 50. But nonetheless, what I've realized is that the ultimate goal was not doing 100 push-ups. It was for me to get stronger. And so now, because I've been able to look at that in a different way, now there's a lot of opportunities for me to get strong other than doing push-ups. But you know what? I do like doing push-ups because it focuses on a specific part of my body. So again, these are details that I'm just kind of constantly working through. Well, what makes sense? Well, just do this. And so eventually I get to a place where I'm comfortable and I'm able to do it on a consistent basis. Go ahead, Jay.
I'm laughing because I've been wanting to say I'm going to do 100 push-ups a day, and I've done them a day. But I was like, how come I never just say I'm going to just do 100 push-ups today with no ties to the next day, and the next day I'll just decide what I'm going to do for that day. Like we should be in the moment as much as possible.
I love you. That was a nail in the coffin right there. You hit that. I needed to hear that even for myself. Even though I made up my mind already. And again, this is point to the show. Not being afraid to reevaluate, change, and move accordingly to something that fits you and actually propels you forward versus hindering you and stalls you out. Appreciate everybody joining us today. Without y'all, we wouldn't be here. We'd be doing something. We definitely wouldn't be here. But hopefully we help you realize that you are perfect because you help us realize it. Anytime there's any kind of feedback, it's just something just to kind of refocus us and point us so that way we can redirect and we can find out what works for us. So we appreciate y'all. And Jay, you can take us out, man.
Yeah, appreciate y'all again as well. And just remember, if you found this helpful, hit that share button. We here every Sunday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Central. Make us part of your Sunday daily practice. And remember, you're a perfect creation made by a perfect creator. So you might as well accept your perfection and enter perfect mode.
If I reminded you that you are perfect, would you argue me down or step into your perfection? Welcome to perfect mode, where there are no excuses, no expectations, and we explore the world without limitations. I'm Jay Clay, rapper, a spiritual teacher, with my co-host Troy Washington, your friendly neighborhood realtor. Let's be real, so let's be perfect. Perfect. Everything, anything, many things, plenty things, perfect. Everything, anything, many things, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, many things, plenty things, perfect mode. Everything, anything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode. Perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode, perfect mode. Everything, anything, anything, plenty things, perfect mode.
Perfect.